Hello, my name's Lois and welcome to today's video. I haven't filmed for probably 6 months, so it feels a little bit strange, but I'm really excited to be catching up with you all. I thought in this video I would just share a little bit about what's been going on this year, talk a bit about Advent, and then go through some of the books that I'm reading and listening to at the moment. So it's been a bit of a strange year, maybe that's why I've not really been making any videos. A lot of things haven't really gone how I'd hoped or how I planned. There's been a lot of disappointment in some ways. I felt a bit stuck, a bit left behind, but I think that's to a degree fairly normal in your 20s. But also I don't have that many peers around me to compare with and to kind of grow at the same pace with, because everyone's doing different things and a lot of people who I'm surrounded by are a little or a lot younger or older than me. So everyone's at a different stage. So it's not been all bad, but it's definitely been challenging. My reading has been, it doesn't feel like I've not been reading at any point, but my reading has been slow. So I've not read anywhere near as many books as I wanted to. I've got a bit swept up in other things. I've been doing some more cooking and baking, which is nice. I've recently gotten quite into puzzle books. I do quite like a Sudoku, and there's this one called, I think it's Code Word, where you're just given a couple of letters and you have to kind of work out the words from that. I also really wanted to play the tourist and go somewhere new for a few days, but I've kind of gone off going places by myself. So I thought, who can I take? Who will be available and not working? So I thought, why don't I bring my Nana, because she's retired and she's very easygoing. She will let me do all the planning and things, which I like doing. So we settled on going to Lisbon for 3 days and we packed a lot in. It was so good. Maybe I'll share a few pictures. But I would say Lisbon has quite a lot of hills, which I liked, but probably not the best location for bringing older or less mobile people. I think I nearly killed her at least once a day by dragging her up a hill when we had like a timed ticket to go in somewhere, saying, we're gonna be late, we need to go. So yeah, but it was so fun. I think Portuguese is such a beautiful language. It just sounds really unique and the people were really friendly and polite. There was a lot of beautiful architecture, great food. I loved a pastel de nata. So it's now December and Advent has officially begun. I have some mixed feelings about this time of year because it can be over-commercialised. Even as a Christian, I have found it hard to make sure that the season stays about Jesus. In recent years, I have really begun to appreciate Christmas songs and Christmas carols a lot more. But I still felt like I wanted a little bit more, so I've been reading a little bit about Advent, and I think my pastor mentioned it at church as well, about Advent meaning the coming or the arrival of, and it's about the first coming of Christ, but also the second coming of Christ. I think I've heard something like the first time he came in humility and the second time he will be coming in glory. And I was also listening to a video by Father Mike Schmidt on Ascension Presents, which I do like to listen to occasionally. And he was talking particularly about the second coming and how over Advent you can be preparing almost for your death, because when the second coming arrives, it will be basically like the death of this world and the beginning of the new one in Christ. But still, I don't know that much about how to participate in Advent, so I've started listening to a Advent book, Advent devotional on Audible. The physical copy looks a lot nicer and I think maybe I'll get that for next year. It's called, I think it's O Come Emmanuel by Jonathan Gibson. It's very reformed, but what I like about it is it's quite liturgical. I think it has quite a lot from the Book of Common Prayer, which I'm hoping to get a copy of soon, because I would just like a little bit more structured and theologically deep prayers to read and go through. I think in the UK we very much have this sense of a loss of cultural identity. And I think we really need to go back to some of the stories, but also some of the traditions of the past. So this year I've been looking a little bit at Hallowtide and now Christmastide as well. We have the very secular kind of Halloween and Christmas, where a lot of it's just about chocolate, having a reason to have a little bit of a party. But I think it could be a lot more meaningful than that. And that's why I want to look at how we've celebrated things in the past. But there's definitely room for some fun festivities as well. A lot of our house is decorated with the Christmas decorations. We've still got the tree to put up, and I still need to put out some decorations in my room, but it's a bit messy in there at the moment because I'm trying to sort it out. But I'm hoping it will look nice and Christmassy soon. Okay, now getting into what I'm actually reading at the moment and have been reading lately. At first I felt like I couldn't talk about some of these, or they didn't really count because they're just kind of more ongoing. So I am reading my Bible. At the moment I am going through Deuteronomy. I think I've been trying to go through the Bible beginning to end again this year, but somehow I'm only in Deuteronomy. I'm not sure how that has happened. I think for a while I'd got quite stuck, probably in Leviticus. But now I'm reading Deuteronomy and a Psalm each day, and I'm really enjoying that. I've gone through the whole Bible before in the New King James Version, but now I'm going through it in the NLT. I think it's nice sometimes to read a different translation because it just helps you see things in a slightly different perspective, or things click a little bit differently. I'm also going through this devotional book that I started this year called Our Church Speaks, an illustrated devotional of saints from every era and place. And I've been really enjoying it. I am very far through it now. I've got this much left. We've got this much left of the year, which is not a lot. But I've enjoyed reading about some prominent Christian figures who I've heard of before. I think last week it was talking about C.S. Lewis, but then there's so many people who I've never heard of. And it has just such a nice mixture. You've got some people who are very famous. You've got Thomas Aquinas, Athanasius, Augustine and Monica. But then there's also martyrs from Sudan, martyrs from Korea, I think Japan as well. So it's a very worldwide book, which I love. I love seeing that the Christian faith isn't just the tiny portion of it that I've experienced, but it is huge and has spanned over 2,000 years. My next reading is about John of Damascus. I just love the illustrations as well, and I like how they are all from different time periods, but because the medium of the illustration is the same for every person, you don't quite feel so separated from them all. Because now if you look at a portrait from, this one is the 18th century, these illustrations, if you see a portrait from that time, you kind of view them as very distant because it's a portrait, it's not a photo. And some people you don't even have portraits or any kind of depiction of. But then you also have people who are in a lot more of the modern day, like C.S. Lewis, who we have photos of, but they're all shown in the same way, so they all feel like equally close or distant to you, if that makes sense. And I also like the reminder, I think it was written possibly in the beginning of the book, that this is like the family of God. These people are all our brothers and sisters, and one day we will get to meet them, which I think is so cool. It's so hard to comprehend when you're in a very Western materialist mindset, but I like trying to think about it. I also recently finished reading The Return of the King, the final part of The Lord of the Rings. Well, I finished the story. I'm now kind of skimming through the appendices on my break times at work. It's quite dense. The appendices in Return of the King, it kind of is reminding me of the Bible. I really liked the first part where it kind of felt like a almost Genesis creation kind of part. And now I've been reading a lot of histories of kings, which I was finding a bit more difficult. Bye! But I did really enjoy Return of the King. There was a lot of aspects I found really encouraging. I always love reading about friendships in the book, and also I really liked the idea of hope in this book. And even when there's like such a small amount of it, when Sam and Frodo are in Mordor trying to go to destroy the ring, and they know that they can be captured at any moment, and the likelihood of them actually getting there is so small, but they just carry on despite of that, and they're just going and going until they're like nearly dead basically. I like the discussions of power. I really liked reading about Denethor, who was the steward of Gondor. I found him very interesting. There are lots of things. Ooh, I don't know how much I should talk about it, and I feel like everyone here has probably read it, but just in case you haven't, I'm not going to spoil it too much. I may do a separate video on Return of the King, we'll see. But now I'm really excited to see the film because I've been reading each part and then watching each part afterwards, so I've still got that to see. But yes, it was very beautiful. It was a bit difficult to read at times, so I'm glad that now that I have finished it, I can read something a bit lighter. So the main novel that I'm reading at the moment is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. And this is the latest Hunger Games book. It is a prequel. So there's the main trilogy that were very big in my teen years, so they're quite nostalgic for me. So the previous Hunger Games prequel, which came out a few years ago, was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which was set at the time of the 10th Hunger Games, and it was kind of following President Snow, or Coriolanus Snow, as he became the ruthless leader that he is in the original books. So this book is following Haymitch Abernathy in the second quarter quell, where instead of 2 tributes from each district, they double it to 4. I found it very interesting how these books have continued, because I suppose I compare them with other big child or teenage series like Harry Potter, whereas after the original Harry Potters came out, they then had all these spin-offs. They had Fantastic Beasts, they had the Cursed Child play, and they all seemed to be like getting worse and worse, and they felt very much like money grabs. And then there have been other things. I think Twilight might have had a few spin-offs as well, but I don't remember them getting a lot of hype. And then now we have the Hunger Games, and I feel like it lay low for quite a long time afterwards. But The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes I really enjoyed. It was a very different perspective, and it didn't have that kind of money grab feel to it. And then probably about a month or so ago, I saw there's a new Hunger Games film, and I was like, how's there a new Hunger Games film? There's not another book, is there? And it turns out this book came out in March, and I've not seen it marketed very much. And I'm kind of curious to know who the book is really aimed at, because a lot of people who were into the Hunger Games at its height were, as I say, probably teenagers. So is this aimed at now teenagers, or is this aimed at those of us now in our mid-20s who were really into it at the time? I'm not sure. What I also like about this book is it feels like the fans are being given a story that they want. Haymitch is a popular character, and he's probably one of my favourite characters. And I remember years ago there was a really popular, quite a good fan film on YouTube from Haymitch's games. So when I found out about it, and I looked and it had very good ratings on like Amazon and Goodreads, I was like, I have to buy this. So I got it. It was on discount on Amazon as well. This big hardback book was like £9-10 I paid for it. And I'm now over halfway, like this far through it. And it's only just now beginning the actual games, because before it was more of the lead up to it. And while the subject matter is quite dark, with all these children being sent to fight to the death in Hunger Games, the actual book is quite easy to read. I mean, the text is not too dense, there's a lot of dialogue, so I'm really enjoying it for that reason, that I can really relax when I'm reading it. As much as I love Return of the King, there were some times when I was like rereading a paragraph several times because the description of scenery was a little bit like hard to get my head around. But this is easy to read and nostalgic, so I'm really enjoying it. They've also released a trailer for the new film, I think last week, and it looks really good. It's coming out next November. I would really recommend it if you have enjoyed previous Hunger Games books, or maybe you read the original ones and you liked the world. Like, the world building is really good, and because I'm familiar with it already, it doesn't take a lot of effort for me to imagine it. So yeah, so that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this little catch up, Advent reflections, going through these books. Let me know what you've been up to this year, and what you're doing for Advent, and what you're reading at the moment. Let me know in the comments, I would love to hear, and see you in the next video. Hopefully it won't be 6 months before I make the next one. Bye!